Welcome back to the program, everybody. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm a pharmacist turned weight management specialist. Today, we're going to talk about Ozempic. And in case you haven't heard the recent news flurry that's been going on, Ozempic is technically a diabetes medication, but there is some new data and some very, very interesting literature that is coming out around managing weight and obesity. But first, just a quick housekeeping thing. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on your notifications so you will be notified every single time that I post up a video. And let's get to it. Now, I really shouldn't say it's been recent. I think it's been closer to approximately like 3 or 4 weeks since the news flurry came out. And in reality, it's going to be 4 or 5 weeks from the time of me filming this to you actually watching it. So obviously, I'm not going to be getting hired as a breaking news reporter anytime soon. But it is a relatively recent news print that's been coming out, and it's very exciting, and there's a lot of hype that's going on about it. And maybe in terms of Ozempic, you've heard the commercial where it goes, "Oh, oh, oh, Ozempic." I think that was a terrible impersonation of it, but you kind of get what I'm saying. So, Ozempic is currently a medication that is approved in Canada and the US for diabetes management. So it's very good at helping an individual manage their blood sugars. However, the recent news flurries that's been coming out is that it's going to be coming and approved eventually for weight management and obesity management. Obviously, this is kind of my area, my space, so probably something I should be on top of, and I've definitely gotten a question or two about it, and that's why I wanted to create this video. So as always, let's start with, what is Ozempic? So Ozempic belongs to a class of medications called GLP-1 receptor agonists. GLP-1 is actually a hormone that's naturally produced by the body. It comes from the L cells of the intestines when food enters our stomach, and is what we consider as a satiety hormone. So it tells us when we're feeling full. Now, these drugs as receptor agonists, what they do is they bind to the same receptor that the natural GLP-1 hormone binds to and elicits the same biological response. So agonist means it does the same thing, if you will. Antagonist would be it does the opposite or blocks the receptor. And in fact, the GLP-1 receptor agonists are actually complete replicas of the GLP-1 hormone that is found in humans, minus a few modifications that basically allow it to last a little bit longer in the body and prevent it from being broken down as quickly as the regular natural GLP-1 hormone is. Now, one of the first GLP-1 RAs that came to market was Victoza, and many of you may have heard of it, and Victoza was originally brought to market for managing diabetes. So the generic name of Victoza is liraglutide, and when Victoza came to market, it was shown to be very, very effective at managing blood sugars, and that's why it got the approval for diabetes. However, it was also shown to have some effect on the heart in reducing cardiovascular events such as heart attacks and strokes, and also, you guessed it, it had a benefit in terms of managing weight. Now, given the current obesity epidemic, the drug maker Novo Nordisk that actually makes Victoza was kind of like, hey, we've got something going on here. At 1.8 milligrams for managing diabetes with Victoza, we get some weight loss. What would happen if we increase the dose to, say, 3 milligrams a day? And from there, the drug Saxenda was born, and well, technically it's more of a Victoza grew up, we got Saxenda, the drug company rebranded it, renamed it, and it's used at a dose of 3 milligrams per day for managing weight versus the 1.8 milligrams per day that Victoza is used for in managing diabetes. And since then, there have been a number of GLP-1 RAs that have come to market, all of which have been used for managing diabetes and have shown some benefit in managing weight as well. Now, like any good, progressive, and innovative company, Novo Nordisk obviously wanted to keep its shareholders happy, so they didn't just stop at Saxenda. They were like, we need to do some more R&D. And ultimately, that research and development led to Ozempic, which, compared to Victoza and Saxenda, Ozempic is a once-weekly injection versus a once-daily injection. Now, as I said before, Ozempic only has the indication for managing type 2 diabetes, so blood sugar levels, at a maximum dose of 1 milligram per week. So since it only has that one indication, insurance companies will only be covering it for managing diabetes at this point in time. Now, the really exciting news, and really what all the news flurry was about, was the STEP trials. So these are the clinical trials where Novo Nordisk then took Ozempic and was actually using it specifically in weight management in individuals that don't have diabetes. And what they found is that when they used a dose of 2.4 milligrams per week, they got additional benefit beyond that max 1 milligram dose that's used for diabetes. So now Novo has applied to the FDA and Health Canada to get the indication for obesity for Ozempic at the higher dose of 2.4 milligrams per week. So it's now just a matter of waiting. Probably isn't going to happen until the end of 2021, maybe into 2022, all kind of depending. Obviously, the COVID situation is making that a bit more complex. Now, I suspect, kind of like the Victoza and Saxenda saga, What Novo's probably going to do is they're going to rename and rebrand Ozempic and then come up with an equally catchy tune that can be burned into the recesses of our brains and come up at the most inappropriate times, but such is life, and that is the reality of, well, drug makers and extending their patents. Now, I should also note that there is an oral formulation of Ozempic available called Ribelsus, I believe it is. It's taken me like 6 tries to actually somewhat get that close, but regardless, that's all going to be cut out and you guys get the good version of it. Anyways, this is a once daily tablet that you would take, or multiple tablets, all kind of depending on your dosage and stuff like that. I'm not going to be covering that today, but rest assured I will provide you my opinion on that at some point in time. All right, we've talked about what Ozempic is, but what is GLP-1? What does GLP-1 do in the grand scheme of things in terms of managing our sugars as well as managing our weight? So as I said, GLP-1 is a hormone that is naturally produced by our body, and it gets released from the L cells of our intestines when food starts coming into our stomach. Now, don't ask me why they're called L cells. I'm just kind of going with the assumption that under a microscope they look like cute little L's, and that's how they got their name, but I'm sure people much smarter than me have come up with a more sciencey reason as to why they're called L cells in our intestines. Anyways, GLP-1 has a few functions on our body. So first off, it goes to our pancreas and tells the pancreas, hey, we've got nutrients, we've got glucose, we got sugar, we got stuff coming into the system. Get ready to release some insulin. Next, it wanders on over to the liver and tells the liver, hey, we've got sugar, we've got nutrients coming into the system. We don't need you to produce any new glucose or anything like that. So shut that process down because we've got energy coming in. We don't need new energy to be produced. Now, those two mechanisms are the primary way that GLP-1 receptor agonists essentially help to manage your blood sugars. Prime the pancreas and shut down new glucose production. Overall, that's going to reduce how high your blood sugar levels are. Now, a quick point that always comes up because people always say, hey, this is used for diabetes. How can we use this in someone that doesn't have diabetes? Well, good news, those mechanisms at the pancreas and the liver, when your blood sugars are within the normal range, those mechanisms shut off. They don't keep working until you're pushed down to being too low. They shut off at a certain point because, well, things are normalized and they don't need to be working and having that effect in that area. So we can use it in individuals that don't have diabetes, and it can be used safely. Next, GLP-1 goes to your stomach and it slows down the process of gastric emptying. What that means is how quickly food moves from your stomach to your small intestine. So it slows that whole process down so food sits in your stomach for a longer period of time. So when food is sitting in your stomach for a longer period of time, basically the body is saying, hey, you're full, you don't need to eat and consume anymore, probably wise that we stop. And unfortunately, the slowing of gastric emptying is what causes a lot of the side effects that come with the GLP-1 receptor agonists. And a vast majority of the side effects that are reported in the trials and that I've also seen in practice are GI in nature, so nausea, constipation, heartburn, in rare instances, vomiting, especially when you overconsume and eat too much. So they're all kind of GI and having that effect, but basically it's because food is just not moving through the system as quickly. Now, many people believe that this is the way that it helps you to manage your weight. I mean, if you feel nauseous and like you're going to vomit all the time, yeah, you're probably not going to want to eat. But that's not quite what happens because this is what we consider a side effect. So after a period of time, your body's actually going to get used to it and it's going to go away and become more manageable. And as your body starts to get used to the drug, many people will start saying, hey, this drug is losing its effectiveness. It's no longer having that nausea and preventing me from overeating and overconsuming. And I'm starting to get my hunger signals and stuff back. That's perfectly normal. And if your hunger is becoming more overt and wanting you to eat more and consume more, that means we need to look closer at your nutrition because you're probably not feeding your body well enough. Now, the final area that GLP-1 acts in is called the mesolimbic reward area of the brain. This area, when it acts in here, it actually decreases your want and your drive for food. So it basically tells you, hey, you don't need to go out and hunt and gather anymore. You can just chill. We're good to go. You're satiated. You're feeling full, feeling good. Everybody's happy. And this is the main effect in terms of how it helps us to manage our weight, is it decreases that want and that drive to go out and find food. So that's all neat and fine and dandy and stuff like that and how it all works. But how effective really is Ozempic? Like, what are we talking here? What do we actually need to know? Well, let me tell you. So as I said, the STEP trials, and I think there's 3, 4, maybe 5 of them. They all haven't been published yet, but one of the more recent ones that caused that news flurry was by Wildling and friends, and they showed some pretty profound weight loss results in individuals that don't have diabetes. And even by my standards, I was quite impressed by the results that I was seeing here. Usually I don't give a positive to a study, but this one definitely had some pretty profound results that are pretty hard to argue with. So in this randomized control trial, Wildling and friends found that On average, people lost 14.9% of their baseline body weight on a dose of Ozempic at 2.4 milligrams per week over a 68-week period. And to give you some perspective, other obesity and weight loss medications have only seen about a 4 to maybe 11% loss from baseline, so 14.9% is pretty huge. And furthermore, 32% of the participants in the Ozempic group actually lost greater than 20% of their baseline body weight. That's a huge amount of weight. And in practice, we generally aim for about a 5 to 10% weight loss as kind of a good marker or a good goal that most people can achieve. So 20% for 30% of the individuals, 1/3 of the people that were in the Ozempic group, is pretty outstanding. And in fact, that's actually pretty comparable to what can be achieved post-bariatric surgery. Depending on the surgery you get, some of them are anywhere from 20 to 35%. And yeah, having a greater than 20% loss of your body weight is huge and really kind of, well, is ultimately where we're trying to go, is that if we can replace bariatric surgery with medications, that would be the ultimate goal. Anytime that we don't have to cut somebody, we ultimately reduce that risk of complications. And of course, these studies were all done in conjunction with lifestyle interventions as well. So participants were given a 500 calorie a day diet deficit, as well as increasing their physical activity and ongoing supportive counseling. And sorry, not sorry, but lifestyle changes, dietary patterns, activity levels will always be the foundation of weight management and really any chronic disease management. There were no glaring shortcomings, and both the Ozempic group and the placebo group got these lifestyle interventions, and the placebo group actually saw some pretty decent results just from the lifestyle interventions themselves. So that really showed that the lifestyle interventions provided were still quite effective in that measures of things. Now, by no means was the placebo group just getting the lifestyle interventions as effective as the Ozempic group, really not even close. On average, between the placebo group and the Ozempic group, there was about a difference of about 12.4% weight loss. Now, of course, the Ozempic group did have more side effects, particularly GI in nature, and even just from my clinical experience, I do see just about every single person experience some form of GI side effects. Some are definitely worse than others. There's been maybe 1 or 2 that haven't had any GI side effects whatsoever, but for the most part, everybody gets some kind of GI side effect, and I think the drug is quite potent, and that's partly what causes the GI side effects, but I've also never seen a drug that's been so effective in managing blood sugars and managing an individual's weight. So in conclusion, everybody, that is Ozempic. And in reality, Ozempic is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the new medications that are going to start coming to market for managing weight. It really showed some really profound results, and there's some more agents that are in the pipeline that are probably going to show even more incredible results. And personally, I think that's pretty freaking neat, especially with the more information, the more knowledge that we gain around what are the pathophysiology pathways of obesity and how can we mitigate and manage some of these appetite and satiety hormones to help an individual manage their weight. And really, between the advancements here with 3D printing, immunotherapies, and even the COVID vaccine, I think we're just on the cusp of entering a new wave of medicine because the technology and where we're going now is pretty freaking cool. And even though all these technologies are coming out and really doing some cool things, lifestyle and behavior modification will always be the cornerstone of all of that. So that's where I come in terms of helping and supporting individuals to change their lifestyle, change their behaviors, all that wonderful stuff. So hashtag sorry, not sorry. But if you ever have any questions, let me know. And yeah, let me know what you thought of this video. If you liked it, if you enjoyed it, want more information, didn't answer something that you might have had, drop it in the comments below. And as always, guys, hit the subscribe button down below so that you don't miss another episode. Turn on the notifications as well. And hey, check me out on my other channels at The Official Dr. Dan, and we will talk to you soon.